Is this saturation or is this competition?
I think it's a little bit of both. For about the last year or so, we've certainly seen things slowing down at the high end of the smartphone market, the phones that are, north of $500. But there definitely is a competitive element here because, especially in places like, Greater China, a lot of Asia, you're seeing players like ZTE, Xiaomi, and Huawei really coming in strong right now at the low end. And so I think they're getting hit on both sides.
And, one number really surprised me, that how much Samsung counts on mobile for its revenue, like 76% of sales?
That's right. That's right. It's actually it's 3/4 of their operating profit, but from a sales basis, they did 54 trillion won, and about 32 of that came from mobile. So this is the engine that has been driving Samsung. The other areas have been weak. The TV side has been soft. Semiconductors actually did pretty well. They are seeing pretty strong demand for DRAM and NAND memory, but the bulk of their business really does come from mobile. And right now, there are signs of there being some weakness.
Yeah, the DRAM numbers weren't really strong, though, and I wonder, you would have thought that this company really had such a strong position in the DRAM business. Brian, what do you think were the weaknesses there?
Well, there's a couple things that we've seen. Well, one of the things that's going on right now, there have been some shortages, especially in China. We're seeing a lot of smartphones that are being made anticipating the build-out of the 4G network in China. And, there have been some shortages related to a lot of components, not just memory. So I think there's been, there have been some imbalances, but there has been a lot of overall demand there. But Samsung does expect, Corey, that segment to grow faster than the rest of the market. And they attribute it, and I agree, to these 4G handset builds we're going to see, I think, between now and the end of the year.
Now, Apple's iPhone numbers, on the other hand, were surprisingly good, surprising to some. What's Apple doing right or better than Samsung at this time? Because the price points are very similar.
Well, Samsung is attacking all tiers of the market. They have the highest-end Galaxy S5, line, but they also have products that go all the way down to the $100 price point at retail. Apple is really just focused on that high end of the market, maybe dipping a little bit into the mid-tier of the market with the iPhone 5C and keeping the older iPhone 4 on the production line to attack the midsection. But Apple is really focused on the high end right now. So, and that's not something that Samsung and Apple are really taking two very different approaches there. But Emily, I'll tell you what's really going to be critical this year for Apple is when they come out with the iPhone 5, the iPhone 6, and they do a larger screen. That is going to really attack Samsung at the high end, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the back half of the year.
Brian, it's purely financial, but I was really struck by the cash number here. I mean,
yeah, $60
billion in cash is a very Apple-like number. Unlike Apple, they've got a big plan to return it to shareholders and probably not invested in R&D at the same levels that Apple has. What do you make of that, and what does that mean for the future of Samsung, not really just as a stock, but as a business?
Well, you know what? They spend a lot of money on marketing. This is really where I think the bulk of their money is spent, and it's spent well. And it's, we've seen phenomenal ads for them, but just a big presence in advertising. That's where a lot of their money goes. But you're right. They have said they're going to be returning, some of this cash to shareholders. I think Apple actually has set a precedent with this last quarterly report where they're increasing the size of their buyback, and they're really giving a lot more back to investors. I think Samsung is going to be forced to follow. Now, they're not listed over here, but I think that global investors are going to have a similar expectation for Samsung's use of cash, particularly given that significant quarterly jump in cash.